welcome back to the agenda. Right, we have an enormous privilege at the moment because we have somehow managed to persuade His Excellency Sharif Salim Al-Olama, Undersecretary for Energy and Petroleum Affairs in the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure, to stick with us for an extended interview. Of course, one of the reasons why we've asked him into our studio is because world leaders are meeting in Baku in Azerbaijan for those COP29 climate talks. That's all happening at a very high level. But what we're interested in right here, right now, is what you and I can do about the current climate crisis, about how we can reduce our carbon footprint. We've had some quite full-on questions coming in on 4001. One person here saying, how can we as small companies collaborate in this mission and work together with the government? That's a nice positive message come through. One that's a little bit more barbed. This person says, how does it incentivize me personally to go green or to spend more money to save energy if refineries, factories and major players are not stopping? What difference can I make? Now, Your Excellency, thank you again for staying in the studio, but I imagine you hear that quite a lot, that sort of slight, strong cynicism, I suppose, in many ways.
Yeah. I do understand the perception. It's like, if I represent a droplet of water in a sea, what difference will I make? My message is every droplet makes a difference. Yeah. Saying that, we do want the individuals to actually contribute to our overall sustainability goals. And while I say that, at the same time, I assure the listeners over here is that nobody is being left off the hook. We have a comprehensive national program, which we call the National Demand Side Management Program. This program actually has 4 sectors that we focus on. There is the agricultural sector, which is purely focused on water conservation and reducing the waste of water in the agricultural industry. There is the building sector, which obviously captures the houses, the commercial buildings and others. There is the transportation sector, and then there is the industrial sector. For each segment, we do have clear set targets and clear set budgets for factories, refineries, with commitments that they need to achieve certain amount of energy efficiency in their operations. We launched this program back in 2021. It is a national committee, so on a national basis, I chair that with representation from all the local governments from the 7 Emirates, as well as the private sector. And we are driving improvement in all of these sectors. To date, I'm proud to say that we have actually reduced around 11.5 million tons of CO2 on an annual basis. And we're just scratching the surface. Much more is to come. In fact, the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Technologies has introduced a program where they also incentivize plants, refineries, and factories for any energy efficiency practices that they do. Even simply getting ISO certified. There is an ISO 50001 that is related to energy efficiency. If the factory actually gets that ISO certification, they immediately get some sort of an incentive. So we are working across the board, and I give the assurance to whoever asked that question. My only request from him or her is to do their part and let the others to us. We will deal with the others hopefully soon.
I've only got a couple of minutes left with you, sir, and I know that there's been a lot of questions coming through about electric cars specifically. There's a question here saying, that they want to have an electric vehicle, but the problem is their feeling is that the infrastructure just isn't there yet in order to charge their car, particularly if they live in an apartment, for example. Now, I'm very lucky. I live in a villa, and therefore I can charge my Tesla outside the house every single night. But what about these thousands of people who live in apartments in the UAE?
This terminology, I never knew about it, but it's called range anxiety.
It's strong. It's a strong feeling, I tell you.
People who have EVs, they just get on the highway and they're worried, where's the next port that I can actually charge my car? Will I actually get to Abu Dhabi or not? It's a very interesting story, Georgia. We got approached as a ministry by many of the car manufacturers. And the car manufacturers in the country came to us and they said, we have a wide range of electric vehicles, and we see that the sales of electric vehicles is not picking up. And the reason is because there is not enough infrastructure for charging. So in our discussion with the private sector, i.e. the car companies, is we engaged into practical solutions. There was a contribution from the car manufacturers in terms of providing chargers, while we as a ministry are responsible for the infrastructure. So all the federal highways is under our responsibility. From that, we have actually created a company. It's known as UAEV. And it's a national company that is owned by the government. And the sole purpose of this company is to expand the charging infrastructure in the country. It was just formed a few months back. By the end of this year, we are going to have 120 additional chargers. And we're focusing as a company, because I'm chairing the board, we're focusing really on the DC chargers. DC chargers are the chargers that get your car charged in 10 to 15 minutes. Of course, time is of an essence when it comes to individuals. The target is to get to around 10,000 chargers in the country by the year 2030. This is a target, and I believe it is a little bit underestimated. I think we're going to hit even numbers bigger than that. We've seen a good uptake when it comes to EVs. Just last year, there was around 13% of the cars sold in the UAE were EVs. So we are seeing that reaction. And of course, to go hand in hand with that, the infrastructure has to grow significantly. So we are working as a charging point operator, UAEV. We know that ADNOC has a program as well. They have developed a charging company under ADNOC distribution. I think soon you will see that difference in the infrastructure across the country.
So it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join us in the studio. It's one of those things where I've got so many more things I could ask you about, but I know that you do need to go on to your next appointment. But we're very, very grateful for you taking listeners' questions. So thank you so much for joining us in the studio today. It's been a great pleasure.
I thank you for having me.
Thank you very much indeed. That's His Excellency Sharif Salim Al-Olama, Undersecretary for Energy and Petroleum Affairs in the Ministry of Energy and Infrastructure.